and subscribe.
And now, it's story time.
Sudiksha Kananki was a young, promising student at the University of Pittsburgh, who dreamed of a medical career. Her path was filled with ambition, a desire to develop and explore the world. Spring break in the Dominican Republic was meant to be one of the brightest memories of her life. Together with her friends, she arrived in Punta Cana on March 3rd. The Rio Republica Hotel, located on the Caribbean coast, was famous for its loud parties, free alcohol, and an atmosphere of carefree relaxation. It was here that Sudiksha met 22-year-old Joshua Ribe, a student at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota, who had also come to vacation. Ribe was known for his sociable nature and ease of communication. He was vacationing with a friend at the same hotel where Kananki and her friends were staying. Their meeting seemed random, like many encounters at such resorts. However, this meeting would become a key event that would later lead to tragedy. On the evening of March 5th, the group of young people was spending time at the hotel bar. The girls from the University of Pittsburgh were laughing, drinking cocktails, and enjoying their vacation. Joshua was drinking with his friend, relaxing after a party. At some point, their paths crossed. According to Ribe's testimony, he and his friend approached the group of girls and started introducing themselves. Sudiksha, who had an open and sociable character, quickly found common ground with Joshua. He was tall, athletic, with a light sense of humor, which made him attractive in company. An easy conversation began between them, they laughed and exchanged jokes. Sudiksha looked relaxed and cheerful. Hotel cameras captured her standing next to Ribe, telling him something while he listened attentively. They danced together, drank, and seemed completely comfortable in each other's company. After several hours at the bar, as the hour approached 3 in the morning, someone in the group suggested changing the setting and going to the beach. The idea seemed appealing. The cozy bar with alcoholic haze had already become boring, and the fresh sea air seemed like a perfect addition to the night. At 4:15 a.m., hotel cameras recorded a group of 8 people, 6 women and 2 men, leaving the hotel grounds and heading to the beach. Sudiksha and Joshua walked side by side, holding hands. The recordings show them laughing, slightly swaying after drinking, and even taking a selfie against the backdrop of palm trees and sandy paths. On the shore, the group split up. 2 girls remained sitting on loungers, enjoying the night breeze. Others went closer to the water. The waves seemed calm at first glance, but they concealed a treacherous force. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will bring you more videos featuring the most shocking true crime stories. Friends spent about 40 minutes on the beach. At 4:55 a.m., they decided to return to the hotel. Surveillance cameras recorded 5 women and 1 man leaving the beach, heading back through the palm-lined path. But Sudiksha and Joshua were not among them. They remained alone. A dark beach, a restless ocean, and 2 young people who had just met. This was the last moment when Sudiksha was seen by her friends. What happened after that remains one of the greatest mysteries of this story. Darkness enveloped the Punta Cana coast. Resort lights were left behind, and only moonlight and twinkling stars weakly illuminated the night beach. The ocean swayed in the rhythm of waves that grew increasingly stronger. Joshua Ribe and Sudiksha Kananki were left alone. According to Ribe, they talked, laughed, and then went into the water. He claims he took off his shoes, removed his shirt, left his belongings on a lounger, and went waist-deep into the sea. Sudiksha followed him. The water was warm, but the waves were beating with incredible force. Suddenly, an unexpectedly strong wave swept over them both. The water flow knocked them off their feet, dragging them deeper. Raib said he tried to hold on to Sudiksha, but the waves prevented them from getting out. He was choking on water, feeling his strength depleting. After several minutes of struggling with the ocean, he managed to approach the shore, holding her in front of him. They were already standing in knee-deep water. Sudiksha seemed to be trying to walk to the beach. Joshua asked if she was okay but heard no response. At this moment, he threw up from the excess of seawater he had swallowed. When he raised his head, she was no longer there. He claims he thought perhaps she had gone back to her friends, taken her belongings, and returned to the hotel. He was so exhausted that he simply lay down on the lounger and fell asleep. The next morning, when he was awakened by the sun and mosquito bites, Sudiksha was nowhere to be found. But no one yet realized that this night would become the beginning of a high-profile case that would attract the attention of the entire world. The morning of March 6th for the Rio Republica Hotel guests began like an ordinary day. The sun rose over the Caribbean Sea, inviting tourists to the beach. However, for Sudiksha Kananki's friends, this day became the beginning of a terrible nightmare. When she did not return to her room, her friends initially did not attach much significance to this. They assumed she might have stayed with someone from her new acquaintances or simply fallen asleep somewhere on the beach. But as time passed and no one could reach her phone, anxiety grew. Around 4 p.m. that day, friends reported Sudiksha's disappearance to hotel staff. The first search measures began. Hotel personnel checked surveillance cameras, which showed that Sudiksha had gone to the beach with her friends and Joshua Raib but had not returned. Meanwhile, Joshua remained calm. He left the beach around 9 a.m., returned to his room, and continued his vacation until he learned that Sudiksha was being searched for. Later, he told investigators that he was shocked and did not understand where she could have gone. Authorities in the Dominican Republic launched a large-scale search operation. Helicopters combed the coastline from the air, boats patrolled the water, and rescue teams with dogs examined the beach. At the scene, only Sudiksha's belongings were found on the lounger, a white swimsuit and a light sarong. There were no signs of violence. But questions remained. If she had drowned, where was the body? How could it be that Joshua Raib, who was nearby, did not notice anything suspicious? Why did he not raise the alarm immediately? The police began to look more closely at the last person who had seen Sudiksha alive. And although Raib was not officially considered a suspect, his passport was confiscated, and the young man was kept under supervision at the hotel. Joshua Raib was the last person who had seen Sudiksha Kananki alive. Therefore, when her disappearance became obvious, he found himself at the center of attention as a key witness and possibly the only person who could shed light on the events of that night. Raib's version and its contradictions. By the time Sudiksha's friends began searching for her, Joshua Raib was already asleep in his room. He did not inform hotel staff about her disappearance, did not contact the police, and did not attempt to find her on his own. This behavior raised suspicions. His first interrogation took place at the hotel, where the police tried to reconstruct the chronology of events. Raib explained that he and Kananki had gone into the water, were swept by a strong wave, and he tried to keep her on the surface. He claimed that, exhausted from fighting the current, he managed to swim out, but when he raised his head after being sick from seawater, Sudiksha was no longer there. He suggested that she might have gone alone, taken her belongings, and returned to her room. He remained on the beach, fell asleep on a lounger, and returned to the hotel in the morning. This version immediately raised questions. Why didn't he try to find her after realizing she had disappeared? If they were truly fighting the waves together, why did no one hear cries for help? How could he assume she simply left without saying goodbye, leaving her belongings behind? These details made his testimony unconvincing. The police decided not to let him leave the country, confiscating his passport. Dominican authorities began pressuring him, trying to determine if there were inconsistencies in his story. He was interrogated for hours, and on one of the days, he spent more than 6 hours in the prosecutor's office, answering numerous questions. Joshua claimed he was cooperating with the investigation but simultaneously began complaining about the conditions of his detention. His parents stated that he was isolated, that he had been interrogated without an official interpreter and without a lawyer until March 12, which was a serious violation of his rights. This created an ambiguous situation. For some, he looked like a victim of excessive police pressure. For others, like someone hiding something and trying to avoid responsibility. 10 days after Siddiq Shah's disappearance, Raib's lawyers filed a habeas corpus petition, claiming that the police and prosecutor's office had violated his rights by detaining him without filing official charges. The judge granted this petition, recognizing that holding Raib under such supervision without official charges was improper. After the court decision, he was officially released, but his passport was not returned, and he remained blocked in the Dominican Republic. During the hearing, Raib made a statement to the judge, "I really want to return home and see my family. I understand that I am here to help, but 10 days have passed." He repeated that he was hiding nothing, that he had done everything possible to save Siddiq Shah, and that his detention was unfair. However, Dominican authorities were not in a hurry to let him go. They insisted that the investigation was ongoing, and Raib remained a key witness who could help shed light on the disappearance. Joshua Raib's case was perceived differently. In the United States, many saw him as a victim of the system, a young American detained in a foreign country without any real evidence of guilt. His parents claimed that their son was an honest guy who found himself in a terrible situation but had done nothing wrong. However, in the eyes of many others, including the Kananke family, the situation looked different. They suspected he was hiding something. Why didn't he call the police immediately after Siddiq Shah disappeared? Why didn't he even try to find her when he woke up? Why did his version of events have minor inconsistencies? The investigation continued, but no new evidence emerged. The police found no material evidence that could indicate criminal activity by Raib. After the court found his detention illegal, Joshua Raib remained in the Dominican Republic, waiting for the return of his passport. His lawyers even approached the U.S. Embassy to obtain a new document, but this process was delayed. Official authorities stated that the investigation had not found evidence of Raib's involvement in Siddiq Shah's disappearance. But they also did not exclude the possibility that new details might emerge later. The Kananke family continued to insist on expanding the investigation and considered involving private detectives. They did not believe in the simple drowning version, as Siddiq Shah's body was never found. Joshua Raib returned to the United States. After almost 2 weeks of being under supervision in the Dominican Republic, he received a new passport from the U.S. consulate and returned home with his father. The Dominican Republic authorities concluded that Siddiq Shah Kananke had probably drowned due to strong currents and did not suspect Raib of any wrongdoing. Kananke's parents also did not consider Joshua responsible for her death. Under pressure from the family and public, authorities were forced to involve additional resources. Drones, search dogs, and military divers were used, but the body was never found. This only fueled suspicions. If Siddiq Shah drowned, why wasn't she washed ashore, as often happens? Meanwhile, public opinion about Joshua Raib was ambiguous. Some people considered him innocent, pointing to the lack of evidence and that his version did not contradict logic. Others suspected he was hiding something. His calm behavior after that night, the fact that he did not immediately raise an alarm, and small inconsistencies in his testimony raised doubts. The court's decision to release Raib without charges further divided society. His parents publicly expressed condolences to the Kananke family but also emphasized that their son had been held in inappropriate conditions and interrogated without a lawyer and official interpreter. While Raib waited for his passport to be returned, Kanenki's parents approached Dominican authorities with an official request to declare their daughter dead. They explained this as a desire to begin the grieving process and obtain legal confirmation of her disappearance. However, the main questions remained open. What really happened that night? Why did no one hear cries for help? Were there other people on the beach who could have been involved in her disappearance? Despite all searches, the investigation could not provide a definitive answer. Sudiksha Kanenki's case remained one of the mysteries that continues to provoke controversy and discussion. The Caribbean Sea continued to surge, and the sandy beach of Punta Cana, which had become the last known location of the young student, was once again filled with tourists. People continued to have fun, enjoy their vacation, unaware that this beach preserves a mystery whose answer may never be found. This story, despite all investigative efforts, remains unfinished. The fate of Sudiksha Kanenki, a young student who dreamed of a great future, is lost among the endless waves of the Caribbean Sea. On one side, Dominican authorities lean towards the accident version. The absence of evidence of violent death or involvement of other persons, as well as the strong sea currents that night, all this supports the official version. But on the other hand, many questions remain unanswered. Why was her body never found, even after massive searches? How could Raib, a former lifeguard, not clearly explain exactly what happened in the last minutes when he saw her? And most importantly, did everything really happen exactly as he described? After his release, Raib remained in the Dominican Republic, waiting for his passport to be returned. His family and lawyers insisted that he had become a victim of investigative procedures that violated his rights. In the United States, many supported him, believing he was an accidental witness to the tragedy, not its perpetrator. Days passed, weeks went by. Sudiksha was not found. And the story of her mysterious disappearance remained a painful mystery that still moves people who seek to understand what happened that night on the Punta Cana beach.
In addition, YouTube's algorithm prioritizes videos with many likes and subscriptions. So, if you enjoyed this video, please click the like and subscribe buttons to help more people see and know about this content. Thank you for watching and listening.